turn to the truth over entertainment? When is it important? It's a very fine line that you know which button to press and when to press it. Let me give you 3 names. Okay, now these are stars. These are absolute. Stipe Miocic, Islam Makhachev, Khabib Nurmagomedov. All 3 of those guys at some point in their career, and for a meaningful point in their career, wanted to fight for a title. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get there. But they told anybody that was willing to listen that not only should they get the opportunity, they're going to win it once they get there. They're the best. All 3 of those guys would lay their case out as though these were closing arguments in court. And I remember when Stipe used to do it. And I remember wanting to help Stipe from whatever position of influence that I could have. I wanted to help Stipe because he was right. He was good enough. He deserved it. Oh, and by the way, definitely could win the belt if you give it to him. And don't forget, Stipe was fighting back in the Cain Velasquez days. These are the days nobody wanted to fight Cain. They would fight him, or they were willing to fight him, or you had to get a check out, and there was like a negotiation that could be done. He was trying to fight him. He couldn't get in there, right? And that's one that we're just always going to have to wonder about. And there's a lot of math, by the way, MMA math. I don't want to get off this topic, but there's a lot of MMA math that would lead to an equation where Stipe beat Cain. Back then, though, that's very interesting. We should always have the right guy. And I remember when Stipe was laying out, because I remember looking at his case and going, all of this is true. None of that was fun for me to hear. I remember thinking that. Everything Stipe, it was always being print, like, oh man, everything that he said here is right. I did not enjoy that read. I would come away with that. I wasn't entertained enough. There wasn't a hype there. There wasn't a hook, which in this sport oftentimes calls for a rudeness, a childish type attitude in this sport. And Stipe, married man, father, man of tremendous honor, first responder, we can agree on this, right? He is a tremendous man and noble person. Was not going to stoop to some of the things that our industry called for. Khabib would fill into that same thing, not only representing his father and his nation, representing his religion in a way, and he had certain things that he was not going to do, but they were part of our sport. They were part of getting headlines. And I got to insert Islam as well. I mean, what was Islam? Was 15-1? And the one, by the way, he got caught in a fight that he was winning. It was just one of these things. How many guys do I have to beat? What is it I possibly have to do? And I'm looking at the landscape, and I'm looking at Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland, without trying to be entertaining, is like he really can't miss. I cannot remember a time I've seen or had an opportunity to click on a Sean Strickland video package and passed it. Now I'll do it later. I'm scrolling down and some other headline gets my attention and it's stronger than that one. I can't think of a time. I've watched Sean Strickland. I don't care if he's on his iPhone driving in his car while he's checking the rear view mirror. Throw something out on Instagram. It's good. It works. He just works. He is an entertaining guy. So when does he turn off the entertainer and when does he turn off the truth? Because Sean is appearing for right now to be erased from contendership within the middleweight division. Now, I understand only 2 guys can do that, right? You've got a Champions and there's just 1 seat left. I understand that's a highly competitive spot and there's guys with reasonable arguments, but imagine Sean's. You guys, I mean, right here, we did a poll at Bad Guy Inc., but we had 50-some thousand people in 3 hours. That is a massive poll, by the way. That is a massive community poll. It was 80-some% when I gave you the option, would you rather see Duplessis versus Strickland on the top of the bill at 300? So that'd be a rematch. They'd already fought. Duplessis grabbed the belt. Or would you rather see Adesanya versus Duplessis? Which for the 10 days that was actually a thing last summer was the hottest feud we've ever had. Melted airwaves. And I, as the author of the poll that pressed send and put it up there for the community page on YouTube to see, thought I knew the answer. I thought it was going to come back Adesanya. I thought you guys would want parity. I thought you'd want to revive that feud. That you'd want to welcome back Izzy. I had it wrong. You wanted Strickland. And I bring that to you because imagine Sean's argument. He goes, hey, I'm the number one contender. I'm the number one contender. I deserve it. Oh, by the way, I have the most important thing. I have the mandate of the masses. Here's my number. But imagine that argument. And you say, well, no, you don't deserve it. Yeah, you're very good. I don't want to upset you, Mr. Strickland, but you don't deserve that. I'm bringing in Adesanya. Adesanya's back. Sean's going to go, you sure about that? You're positive. You've thought this through and he's the guy. Yeah, I'm positive. He's the guy. Okay, great. Do you know I beat him? I didn't just beat him one time. We actually fought for 5 rounds. I beat him all 5 of those rounds. I didn't just fight him one time for 5 rounds. I fought him for 25 minutes. I won each one of those minutes. I mean, like, there's ways to break it down where if you come to the conclusion that Izzy is deserving, by proxy of your own definition, a byproduct would be admitting that Strickland is deserving. Okay, great. Well, there's another side to it too, which is the Duplessis. One judge thought that Strickland won. You guys thought Strickland won. I am very biased towards Strickland. I did not think he won. That's quite irrelevant. I'm offering you that because there's not really a way to look at this map where you leave him out. Okay, great. The next best thing, right? Terry Brand's 101. When you can't get what you want, get the next best thing. Would be a number one contenders fight, but it would appear that Whitaker and Chimaev have captured that spot. So, where do you go with Sean? And I have a theory. I have 2 guesses. And I'm quite sure that I'm right on one of them. But guess what? One is left and one is right. One's hot, one's cold. I mean, I am light years away from each other on these 2 theories. One of my theories is that you're going to use Sean. You've already secured everything with Sean. You told him and reinforced 20 times that he's great. You love him. Get ready. Stay in shape. You're going to put him as the backup fighter. He's going to go out to Perth. He's going to be the backup guy, which is a meaningful spot. It's a great spot to be in. Everybody loved that position until Conor came out and said that it wasn't a cool thing to be a backup. I mean, like that's the only time when that hasn't been looked at as a reward and some kind of a nod, an accolade. Okay, great. That's one spot. That's one theory that I have for where they're going to put him. But the other theory is that, and you got to understand, Bo Nickel is on the main card of 300 for a reason. None of us fully know what that reason is. But we also do understand is to shine up a tremendous prospect. And at some point, like everybody, that prospect has to be given that guy with the right number next to his name. I'll give you guys a fine example. Khamzat Chimaev was not ranked. If you could believe it, he wasn't ranked, and he was the media darling like only 2 other people in the history of our sport have ever seen, Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. This is red hot, and we got to get him into a title fight. He's not ranked. So to solve that problem, we're going to take an unranked Khamzat Chimaev, 25 years old, and we're going to put him against number 3, Leon Edwards, and they actually signed that fight. You guys were quite upset. You wanted to see the fight, but you were quite upset because you looked at it as a slide on Leon. I'm just reminding you of this because COVID hit. Canceled that fight. But that theory and that process still does hold up. Right? Understanding in more recent times that Sean O'Malley is quite possibly the best guy in the world. Oh, by the way, problem, I can't even get him to fight. He's ranked number 10. I mean, I have to do something before that title opportunity. So you get him there with the former champion like Jan. He moves from 10 to 1 overnight. Boom, off he goes to Sterling. Rest is history. But these are important things to understand. So something is happening with Bo. And I don't know how many of these squash matches we can do until we finally just go, hey, God, give him the match. Like, we all see what you're trying to do, but you are the one that has decided you can't do it. Like you've got these barriers in the way, and we've had this from the beginning of time in the sport. We've had barriers that stop us from making fights, but the people that are trying to get around those barriers are the rule makers that created it in the first place. I mean, there's no fight that they can't make. But many times this will happen. Well, I got to bring him up this way, and I got to bring him up that way, and what says who? Says who? And you must understand, this is the wrestler in me. But you show up, you take on anybody. It doesn't matter what you're ranked. You take on anybody. So somebody's going to have to do it. Oliveira had this done for him, right? Like, the Oliveira story doesn't exist without Tony Ferguson. Oliveira never is a main eventer, never fights for a world title, never wins world titles, never is in the spot that he is right now, which appears to be one away from a title shot again, but none of that exists without Tony Ferguson. You had 5 stars at 155, Tony was one of them, and you had about 12 really good fighters, but the really good fighters couldn't get on the docket with the stars because they all played hide the ball with each other. Ferguson's the one that gave the opportunity to Oliveira. So somebody is going to get the call to do this for Bo. And that is one of my guesses for Strickland. And those are very opposite guesses. On one hand, he's going to be the guy used to bring up the guy that is very clearly got his push behind him, but he's not quite sure what to do with it. Versus Strickland has been assured and reaffirmed of his value, of his worth, of his ranking, of where he stands, and is going to be a backup fighter. I understand the separation, but I do maintain, I believe I'm right on one of those two speculations.